from my perspective, and I think you touched on a couple of points. AI is this concept that people are absolutely, dare I say, obsessed about, and really, really taking up in lots of strategies, and really getting comfortable with the idea that this is kind of the new future and the new way of doing things. But from my perspective, maybe I'm a bit of a cynic. I like to keep things a little bit more practical. And today's talk is not going to be talking to you about how wonderful AI is, which it is in some instances. But if it's not practically applied into business, then it's never going to be of any value. And for most people that are on this journey, this data journey, and moving towards kind of becoming a more data-led organization, unfortunately, I have to be a bearer of bad news and say AI is no silver bullet. So, before this talk, I actually went online and I was looking for what is the definition of AI? What are people Googling and looking at for when they say, what is actually AI? And I found this quote from Britannica, and I put 2021 there because I looked for it actually yesterday, so I get the real latest version of what it says. And everyone knows Britannica is one of the most trusted resources out there. But if we read what it states there, it's the ability of a digital computer or a computer-controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings. And the reason why I like that statement is, if I read it cold, it sounds like it's going to replace you, right? And Caroline, if you can click onto the next thing, it is sounding like there's this, I think I'll have to do one more click, sorry, just to finish off the slide. Just a real abomination of people trying to kind of show you that there's these robots that are coming into our space and really going to automate us out of jobs, maybe out of specific areas or capabilities that we've always existed before. But at the end of the day, like whether you're in a strategic exco level point of your career, making and big decisions around what you need to do from your data strategy, or you're an analyst sitting and trying to drive a new way of working with data in your current space, the aspect of applying AI and double clicking on it and really understanding how it practically apply into your area, wherever you are and whichever part of the business you are, and wherever you are in your continuum of a data maturity continuum. The most important thing is to really make sure that you tie and what the practical applications of these are into specific business areas. I'm very fortunate to have to work with different operating models. I've been through quite a few transitions around how do we get specific activities working within the business area. And, time and time again, it's proven that if it's not weaved into any type of strategic business initiative or objective, no matter how good the AI is, if it's not relevant, it's not going to work. And something that we're really trying to push as a data champion within the industry is to keep that relevance going. So what I've done is, I've created a simplified operating model to really understand what type of questions you could be asking or should be asking yourself through a practical application of a data and analytics operating model that I feel could probably be applied to probably almost any industry or any department. So whether it be a full strategy or down to a specific area, I do think that if you ask these questions, you'll be able to really understand kind of what the value of data or the outcome that you want to target, but more importantly, the sexy, in inverted commas, of AI wrapper that needs to be put around it in order to kind of executive sponsorship around it. I'm not sure if sometimes that approach is the right one to take. So what I'll do today is kind of really give an insight to kind of what questions we ask when we run specific data programs, the things that we look at in order to create that success criteria, and more importantly, to really fundamentally pull that level of conscious intelligence, whether it be beings that's stated in the statement, or whether it be a golden thread of true intelligence that feeds the business. So something, and just one more click. Something that we truly needed to understand, right? There's a couple of players within this operating model that we needed to kind of address. And from our side, it's not about understanding what or who does what at a specific time. The reason why we created two streams there is to show that things can actually run in parallel. You don't need to run in a sequence of events. Some things you can and some things you don't have to. But in essence, this is a partnership with the different, I'm calling it business, doesn't have to be business, it can be something else, but a data, to create data value with wherever it is inside your organization, it needs to be a partnership. It needs to be co-created. Why? Because the data expertise and the business understanding and the SME experience lives within business. And this is something that we truly have to apply our minds to. If you want to create, for example, a new strategic direction on digital channels, without understanding the essence of what that business does and what they need to do, with applying AI technology to it, you'll never ever get to that process. So as we start this journey, and that first bubble, there's data ownership, we need to make sure we understand that we can trust this data that we're using. If you want to complement any AI strategy in order to drive your business forward digitally, whether it be digitally or from a product or from a client perspective, you need to be able to trust your data. That is the backbone of any decision. And if you can improve the data quality, so something that you can feel and really truly understand in the business areas, and something that you can absolutely focus on to improve and drive the vision of that business, is, do we really understand the quality of our data? It's a simple question, but everyone's heard the saying of garbage in, garbage out. If you don't understand your data quality, you'll never be able to get the true value of the meaning, or sorry, the true value of the data that when you finally come to those decisions. Click on the next item. Thanks, Caroline. So the fundamental question is like, well, if we understand and we trust our data, we know where it comes from, we know where the data sits, we know the data domain owners, we know in the quality state that it sits. This is where people start gathering and consolidating the data to make sure that, do they know where this data comes from? And not only that, is it the best source of data? If you are focusing on driving any AI, and let's keep AI as because it's part of the topic, if you keep trying to drive any statistical analysis or any type of output, you need to make sure that you get the best and trusted quality of data. A very simple example is, if you work in a large organization like I do, and you want to pull in customer data, but the customer data gets updated maybe on a daily basis or whatever the frequency is, if you're not pulling the customer data from the right relevant resource or right source of data that's updated consistently, as soon as you take one next step in your analysis process or in the process of running some type of decisioning on the data, it's already out of date. So you need to make sure that the data sources complement the level of quality that you expect, that you want to build with specific businesses. Next section, please, Caroline. So a lot of people say, great, let's go back. We know where the data sits. We know what quality that we can pull, what the quality of the level of quality that we can pull into. We know where to pull it from the sources that are available in the best strategic stacks. We've got everything together. And the next thing that people do is immediately start focusing on, how do we actually start building models and embedding this value into the business? People want to immediately start jumping from getting the source of data and start embedding. In some organizations where the data maturity is pretty high, where the data maturity is actually quite robust, that makes sense. If you think about a constant, this agile ways of work and this consistent delivery of value into a stream that gets measured on a daily basis with stand-up, that could work. And where we've seen it really work is with feature builds, in tech companies or in tech teams, app development, things that you can physically measure and move to specific places because you've got the data and the outcome and the things have all been agreed upon. But most important thing, if you're trying to stretch a data literacy program across an organization and driving the value within the organization through an analytics enablement function, there's a missing step here. And something that we've been truly, truly focused on embedding from a data IQ perspective, Caroline, if you can click onto the next one, please, is fusing the understanding of where the data's come from, what needs to be done at the end of the day. And there's this world that sits in between, is how do people know how to use it? If we start promising AI as a capability that's going to solve a couple of problems or create efficiencies in the things that we need to do, will people not only in the business, with all the people that will be using this new found technology, will they understand how this stuff works? Imagine, and I always use this example, is if you had to take, for example, a new digital channel and maybe mobile banking, for example, and 5 or 10 years ago, given your phone to a loved grandmother or grandfather or grandparent, would they know if you left them alone to say, okay, make a transaction or pay yourself or pay someone, and not give them the support and guidance through it? Do you think they would be able to successfully get from A to or complete the transaction or complete the whole process? Probably not. And this is something that we constantly have to remind people about. If you're instilling any type of model development, any type of new decision, any type of new, let's call it AI sphere that is moving itself into the business, you have to train and develop people so that they understand that this is not only the concept, but this is the output that's expecting from them. Does it integrate into the current processes and the current, let's call it, their daily routine, the things that they're used to seeing every day? Is it form part of that? Does it add value to them? Is it create a sense of comfort that they can use this new AI technology to drive their business forward? Whether it be an optimization focus on a specific channel, whether it be a specific product or customer outcome, will they know what to do with it if you give them this new thing that you want to build from? And this is something that's we've been acutely aware. And I think on trend at the moment now is data literacy, is data culture, purely because people have realized that the more you federate, the more you drive and embed a AI utility, whether it be AI, whether it be stats, whether it be data science, AI utility into the business, the more you will see the value land in that area because they truly understand what to do with it. Sometimes AI is still very alien to a lot of people, and a lot of people on this call today will really understand that they fundamentally need to change the perspective to really not speak AI and data only. They need to speak business and how it makes a difference to their business. So what I've really truly tried to embed is to say, okay, this whole operating model makes sense. It seems to be working. There's a flow of information. It's complementing value. But what is the thing that you want to give people? What is the output? What is the intentional thing that you want to achieve with that business? If you click on the next slide, Caroline, it's the business and what we've termed a business data asset. So it depends where you are and what organization, how data is treated, how data is seen. But the fundamental difference between what we're trying to do now and trying to drive in our business areas is that we are trying to instill and embed these business data assets that create that value. It's a business data asset, which is something that is being built for them that they can reuse in that area. And remember, in that, if you double click on that business data asset, depending on what use case you're solving, there will be parts of AI that we're solving that. There will be parts of AI that will filter and get decisions to specific people at the right time, in the right place, with the right product, with the right proposition, because it went back through the channel. It found where the data sits. It understands what's the best source, and it's currently up to date. It showed people that this is the platform that we're going to use it. So we built this data asset on a specific thing that people use on a daily basis. And then the last point is that it actually adds the value, the relative value in that area and what they're going to be focusing on. Because for our side, if you try to create an AI or excitement about AI, if you cannot, in a clear and simple outcome-based approach, meaning that ask the business, what do they physically want to see, touch, feel, and experience with this business data asset, then you'll never ever truly grasp the concept of what we can use as an AI concept into those business areas. The more business data assets that you install in the area or into the business, the more people will become comfortable with the aspect of using data as a strategic layer or decision-making tool or whatever the use case is. The more you can create those pockets of excellence and start tying together and truly using, it could be used, AI technology in order to fuse and scale bigger data assets that really embed themselves into the business. Like something that we consistently talk about is, how do people truly understand the value of data? If Goodwill, for example, if Goodwill as a brand, if Goodwill can be measured on a balance sheet, which is marketing and brand value, why can't good quality data be measured there? You know, why can't a company that invests in its data quality make sure that it's good, it's available to everyone, it's transparent with all the decision, it democratizes insight? That for me is a company that will succeed in the future, because they are using AI, stats, data science to embed it into the business. People become it embeds themselves and empowers people to use data as a strategic asset. So I think, you know, from my side, I think we've also heard lots of ways of how AI is changing the landscape and all the technologies that are available. And it's actually quite, I don't know if the word scary is the right word, but it's quite astonishing of how many open source platforms that have AI available as a strategic driver that you can, in some instances, just download and build like your own quick little tool. And these are the platforms that will obviously succeed, but it also allows us to see what's available out there. Before you go down and focus on the shiny, sexy, amazing AI tools and technology, I would ask these questions in this operating model first. Create an outcome that can be labeled as a business data asset that you can land and embed and make it be felt, that value within that business areas. Then your world is your oyster. You have plenty of applications, you have plenty of options, and more importantly, you have plenty of exploratory things that you could use in order to come up with that. But one very last recommendation that I would suggest is speak to the technology people. Speak to the people that run the strategic stacks. Speak to the people that really understand, is this AI capability complementary to environment? Remember, it's something new going into potentially that could be something old. And if it does not fit, or if it doesn't complement the environment with the new tool going in, this will always be isolated and never work properly. And that's it from my side. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Maciej, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're running a little bit out of time, because I'm sure there are lots of questions. But I just wanted to compliment you. It's very rare to see an organization who understands the importance of bringing your people along on the journey towards digital transformation. So that data literacy piece really is inspired, and I'm sure it made a huge difference in the organization when you introduced that. It took some of the fear out, I think, that Sergio mentioned in the first presentation, and it actually delivered on a common purpose and objective. All right.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maciej, and thank you, everybody.